Well, it looks like I'm back for another video right here, and unfortunately, it's something that's not going to be very happy like right now. We're definitely going to be pretty upset by this little big news. Welcome everyone back to the Pizza Party. Hope you're all doing great. I'm your host, Game Pizza Boy. Good to see you all. And today's video, I need to go over and talk about something real quick, and that is the recent announcement that EA, who was obviously, having some games for Star Wars being developed right now, more specifically Respawn's FPS game, is now canceled. Yep. They canceled another game. Now, I know there's a lot of different games that are supposed to be coming out right now. We got a lot of big plans. Respawn still got like a strategy game. Ubisoft's got their open world Star Wars game. Star Wars Hunters happening. Eclipse, the KOTOR remake. We still got a lot to look forward to those games at least. And then we know that the third installment to Jedi is going to be happening very sooner or later. So we'll begin back with Cal Kestis. But this is kind of disappointing because not only is another game that's been canceled by EA, but I just really want to discuss my thoughts, situation, and look at some important news and articles that I want to kind of go over and really discuss my thoughts on this because it really irritates me and I need to really go over this so I can explain what is going on. So feel free to bear with me right now as I'm basically going to go through a full discussion as well as a very big rant on how I feel about the situation, how aggravating it is from all these games that were canceled by EA and basically how this is going to go off. So before we begin, as always, if you do enjoy this video, make sure you hit the like button, comment down below and tell me your thoughts about the canceled FPS Star Wars game that Respawn was working on. And don't forget to subscribe. I would appreciate your support. But anyway, let's get right into it and let's discuss the unfortunate news that just happened. So first of all, let me give a little insight on exactly what this game was supposed to be about. So this was announced, I believe, like a few years ago, basically by EA, and obviously it was announced that Respawn would be working on their own FPS Star Wars game. Obviously, we all know Respawn, who is responsible for the entirety of the Star Wars Jedi franchise, with Cal Kestis, including Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, as well as also responsible for Apex Legends. So obviously, these guys have been working on some pretty good games, including Titanfall and stuff like that. It's obviously no doubt that these guys legit know how to make these games and really make them entertaining as possible. They've done a very good job with many of their games so far. But this game was an exciting game. I think me and many others were really hyped for the most. But at least just hopefully a game that would not just get canceled so much. And it's very aggravating to me to talk about this. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole history about exactly all the canceled games of Star Wars that EA has done, but obviously about EA, how much they've done many canceled games. A few I can just at least mention, or I think the one that was being worked on by Visceral, who, at the time when they were still around, they were responsible for the Dead Space franchise, and they worked on their own type of game, basically, of course. But obviously, that never got out to be right there. They also worked on, I think, Star Wars 1313, but that didn't go out as well anymore, and that resulted in their shutdown. There was Project Ragtag, which obviously was being worked on by Visceral and Amy Hennig, which obviously was basically surprisingly similar to that of Star Wars 1313. That was pretty cool, but that got canceled. There was also that Project Orca one that EA Vancouver was working on as well. And then probably the one I was actually even more anticipating for, and a lot of fans for Battlefront, especially the most, was Project Viking, which was a Battlefront spin-off that was reportedly in development for a short time until it was then just scrapped entirely as well. So yeah, EA's been on a streak of canceled Star Wars games so much. So it is nothing new that EA has been doing this to us. This is another game being added to the list now completely, and that is the Star Wars FPS game, which turned out that it was actually going to be a Mandalorian bounty hunter game, an FPS. Yep. It was going to be a Mandalorian-style bounty hunter FPS game taking place in Star Wars, developed by Respawn Entertainment, who is also responsible for the Jedi franchise, which has been successful so far. So here we are. I'm on this article first. We're going to be reading is from The Gamer. This is from their announcement when they mentioned about the canceled game. So here we go. EA has canceled an unannounced Star Wars FPS game. EA has confirmed its canceled plans for the new Star Wars FPS following a series of fresh layoffs. Yes, this has mostly relation to that of the layoffs. So lately right now, as you know, there's been a lot of layoffs as of late right now, which is kind of unfortunate. Electronic Arts recently announced that it will be laying off around 5% of its global workforce earlier today as part of a restructuring plan that will see roughly 600 670 people lose their jobs. At the same time, EA CEO Andrew Wilson explained in a letter to employees that the publisher will be sunsetting some games and, quote, moving away from the development of future games based on licensed IP to focus on strengthening the publisher's own brands. This is where my problem comes in mind right now. That's the problem right there, is that, first of all, and this is just in my opinion, though, the fact that they're laying this off or a restructure plan because because of everything they need to work on with everything going on right now, they want to do this just to help make it a little better for their, just their workforce basically over there. And obviously, the CEO, obviously of EA, mentioning that they'll be sunsetting some games, moving away from the development of future games based on licensed IPs to focus on strengthening the publisher's own brands. If that's the case, then that obviously shows that that's the reason why it got canceled. But that's the problem right there, in my opinion, because the fact is, one, their own brand IPs has not been that great. I mean, take a look at Battlefield 2042, for God's sakes. That game did not go well at all. Anyway, moving on, one such game that has been axed as a result of this change is an unannounced Star Wars first-person shooter that was in early development at Apex Legends and Star Wars Jedi developer Respawn Entertainment. This was recently confirmed by EA Entertainment President Laurie Meal in a statement provided to VGC, who explains that Respawn's fans are most excited by the Jedi series and the developer's rich library of own brands. Respawn fans are most excited by the Jedi series. Of course, we were excited by the Jedi series, but that's one thing you're not realizing, though, is that we're not going to always rely on the Jedi series to be the game that we want as a Star Wars-like game that we definitely wanted. We want to enjoy as much variety as possible when it comes to Star Wars. There are many possibilities as a whole that we can enjoy so much about Star Wars, and yet here we are discussing this right now and basically trying to go over all this, to go over everything right now as a whole, and yet what you guys are doing is basically taking away another chance of a new game that you guys can be working on, and instead just scrapping entirely. Despite the fact that, yes, there are the situation of layoffs during this stuff, but it doesn't just make this any better at all. And it just only shows that EA is just really making some pretty poor decisions, in my opinion, despite for their business right there. Employees losing their jobs, and now, at the same time, possible chances of games that people could be looking forward to are just being scrapped. Moving on, as we looked at the Respawn's portfolio over the last few months, what's clear is the games our players are most excited about are Jedi and Respawn's rich library of own brands, says Meal. Knowing this, we have decided to pivot away from early development on a Star Wars FPS action game to focus our efforts on new projects based on our own brands while providing support for existing games. While not outright confirmed, it seems extremely likely that Meal is referring to the Mandalorian first-person shooter title that was rumored to be in development earlier this month. According to Insider Gaming, Respawn had plans for an FPS based on the series, which would focus on style and mobility more than anything else. It was also claimed the game was a couple years away from release, but could now have been scrapped entirely if it is the game Meal is referring to her statement, which, by my guess, I really think it is probably the case. As for EA's other licensed titles, they all appear to be on track and doing fine right now. EA Motor's Iron Man game and Cliffhanger Games' Black Panther title are both unaffected by this change, as reported by GameIndustry.biz. As is probably any future plans for the Star Wars Jedi series. We have no idea how many other unannounced titles at EA's many studios have been affected, but what do we know is that we can probably expect a lot fewer Star Wars from EA in the future. Now, here's something about this right here. You see, like this, we don't know what other unannounced titles, but listen to those titles right there. EA Motor's Iron Man game and Cliffhanger Games' Black Panther title that's supposed to be happening. I heard about the Iron Man game. I didn't know about the Black Panther one, but the Iron Man one I know about that was being worked by EA Motor. Can you see this situation right here? That's going to be interesting right here. The fact that Star Wars is getting this title canceled, but yet what doesn't get unaffected is basically Iron Man right now and this Black Panther title. They're both getting unaffected by this stuff. And that makes me worry the most because even though they say that, who knows, it might actually happen to them very soon. If a Star Wars FPS title can get canceled so easily just like that, why wouldn't these Marvel games end up getting next? I mean, Marvel can also have a taste of this problem as well, too. So I'm not, I'm going to have doubt that we're going to be seeing these games at all. If they manage to do it, well, good for them. But I'm still going to keep my eyes peeled if it's going to be any worth it. But the fact that Star Wars can get easily canceled so easily by EA so many times. I wouldn't doubt that Marvel will be the next bit of it too as well. I mean, these are two big franchises, and Star Wars has been getting shit on by EA constantly by many of these canceled games. So I have no doubt, by all means, that it's just going to end the same way possible yet again. So it is not surprising at all that EA basically just seems like they have a pattern doing this a lot. Now, switching over real quick to IGN's report on this, it's mostly the same stuff, but there's a couple things they mentioned as well. I'm pretty sure as well, including the so-called supposedly cuts that have happened to a lot of the stuff that's been going on for a lot of games apparently, and as well as the situation with the game industry basically getting rocked by layoffs. And there's a lot more details on this, so I want to kind of read this too as well. So going to IGN's report, this is what they read out again. So some of the stuff is similar, like I said, so brief with me a little bit. Today, EA announced a major company shakeup that will result in roughly 670 individuals, or 5% of its workforce, losing their jobs. As part of that same reorganization, Respawn Star Wars FPS in development at Respawn is being canceled. Following CEO Andrew Wilson's announcement of the cuts today, EA Entertainment President Lori Miele shared a note with staff explaining in more detail what EA's business priorities would be going forward. This includes her announcement that EA is shutting down an early development Star Wars FPS action game as a part of an ongoing focus on its own brands and supporting its existing games. It's always hard to walk away from a project, and this decision is not a reflection of the team's talent, tenacity, or passion they have for the game, Miele wrote. Giving fans the next installment of the iconic franchises that they want is a definition of blockbuster storytelling and the right place to focus. Not much is known about the Star Wars FPS, but it is rumored to feature a Mandalorian protagonist in some way. The fate of EA's Star Wars strategy game is also unclear. EA is undertaking the move in part due to what it perceives to be a rapid shift toward large open world games, massive communities, and live service games. And we all know how live service games go, and open world games kind of getting a little shit on too as well. That's also one thing, by the way, the strategy game. There was also that strategy game that Respawn is being developed as well, but it's also unclear if that too is going to be canceled as well. There has not been mentioned by this at all, and I have no idea what's going to be about with that, but one thing for certain is that if that game is getting canceled, so is the strategy game most likely, so who knows. I mean, hopefully it's not for anyone who is interested in many strategy games, but only time will tell, so we'll see. IG understands that the team previously working on this game will largely be reassigned to other projects, including still working on Apex Legends, Iron Man, the Black Panther game, and of course Jedi, for which EA has confirmed a third installment. We all know that. The Star Wars Jedi franchise will continue despite EA's move to focus on own IP, and EA is set to remain focused on its long-standing relationship with Disney and Marvel. I don't believe that, it's gonna do well, in my opinion. I just feel like that. I mean, again, it's still yet to be announced, shown off fully, these two games, but I just don't know if it's going to be good based on what I'm saying. And this is EA we're talking about, and even their long-standing relationship with Disney and Marvel, I really don't know how to say this. I mean, it's just going to be interesting to see where this goes, so only time will tell, of course. But moving on, there's also a mention right here from them about the cuts continue, where they mention here specifically about some other related details involving the teams and stuff like that that's been going on right now, including, I guess, another couple of other games that they're getting canceled by the looks of it. Additionally, EA will be restructuring its Battlefield team somewhat following the departure of Marcus Leto. It's sunsetting Ridgeline Games, folding some of its developers into Red Bull Fed. Danny Isaac and Darren White at Criterion will also oversee a single-player work on the series going forward as well for that. So we'll see how that kind of goes for that reason. EA will also sunset a number of mobile games, including the already announced F1 mobile racing and MLB Tap Sports, as well as Kim Kardashian Hollywood and the Lord of the Rings Heroes of Middle-earth, which was released less than a year ago. So it looks like even those mobile games are also being kind of just moving away from now. IGN understands that EA intends to reorient its business and development plans to focus on a handful of its biggest franchises, including EA Sports, Apex Legends, the Star Wars Jedi franchise, the upcoming Black Panther and Iron Man movie, the Battlefield franchise, Need for Speed, Dragon Age, Skate, and The Sims. IGN also learned that the team is still working in pre-production on the next Mass Effect, though BioWare's current focus remains on Dragon Age at this moment. It's not lost on me that these changes are more than words on a page. They directly impact the work you do every day, and in some cases mean we are eliminating roles and saying goodbye to talented colleagues, wrote Miele. I will never lose sight of the human impact of these decisions and know that change and disruptions aren't easy. In difficult moments, we must remember how important it is to show up for our players and for each other. Now, the mention right here about the layoff situation, this one by IGN right here states, the game industry continues to be rocked by layoffs. For the financial quarter ending in December 2023, EA reported net bookings of $2.37 billion, about up to 7% year over year, and net revenue of $1.945 billion, largely driven by EA Sports FC and Madden. Yeah, gee, I wonder why. Money. The company's layoff of roughly 670 individuals is yet another instance of ongoing layoffs, rocking the entire industry, impacting roughly 10,000 developers in 2023, approaching 8,000 in just the first 2 months of 2024. EA itself already laid off 6% of its workforce almost a year ago, with Wilson at the time citing very similar motivations to this year. Despite these layoffs, the total headcount prior to today's cuts is higher, about 13,400, than it was during the last layoff, which is about 12,900. That's still a lot of layoffs. The company's SEC filing states that the company will take on approximately $125 million to $165 million in costs in connection with these layoffs, including costs related to official office space reductions, severance, and costs related to licensor commitments, likely related to the canceled Star Wars game as well. Now, again, like I said, when I look at this all, I can understand completely about the whole situation with this business. I can understand completely what's going on. I can understand that with these layouts, it's going to change and shape a lot of the stuff with gaming going on right now in many of these game development. But again, though, the fact that once again, another Star Wars game gets completely scrapped completely, and it's from this reason especially alone that's been going on right now, because we've been here all these layouts for a while. I've been upset hearing these layouts as of late right now. It's just disappointing to see this happening. And again, the only reason why this is even happening a lot is because of the many problems that's been going on right now with the struggles of what's been going on for gaming, what's been happening so far as of late. It's been hard for them to make as much of the money they want to as possible. Even though EA has stated their revenue was up there, like their net bookings again was $2.37 billion, and their net revenue was $1.949 billion. Again, it was largely driven by their EA Sports Madden game, which, like I said, has their own way they get money, of course. So compared to other games, they're probably struggling to make a lot as possible compared to those two games. And so, just like many of the other companies, they gotta completely drop and lay off so many of their own workers because of this. But again, it's so nuts that so many people are losing their jobs, that so many people are unfortunately have to go find other jobs, despite the fact they had a chance to have more to work for in these companies, these big AAA titled companies. And yet, this is where to lead up to. But it's not just also, again, not worse just for the developers, but it's worse for us gamers too. Not just Star Wars fans, but us. Just in general gamers. The fact that so many of these games are just being canceled, despite the fact that they never got a chance to take off. They did not got a chance to be shown properly to the public. And yet, when they do, or they get leaks and show concept art, maybe rough early gameplay, or even just small bits of trailers, it just shows the potential they could have had that unfortunately has now completely been eradicated, that we will never see again. Is sad. It's unfortunate that this game, this FPS action game that was going to be a Mandalorian bounty hunter game, that was worked by Respawn, who's working on not only worked on Titanfall and works on Apex, but is also working on the Star Wars Jedi franchise, is now basically forced to now just completely get rid of that game that was been working on for a few years. And with on top of this, so many layoffs, it's basically a bad time right now, and it's made things a lot worse for EA right now, and for many fans who do still try to enjoy their games. Either way, despite how many people still play those games, it's just not enough, I would say, to help make things better for EA because of the many decisions they have done to themselves. These games have gotten so canceled very swiftly before they can even get a chance to even take off, to get a chance. Because I can believe you, for example, like with Star Wars 1313, for example, if that game took off, I can bet you that Visceral and EA would have made a lot of money. But they decided not to because they believe that single-player Star Wars games were just not it. Oh, but guess what? Jedi Survivor and Jedi Fallen Order happened, and now we enjoy those games, and those are making racks of dough for Respawn and EA. But oh wait, they still yet again canceled yet another Star Wars game again, and this was going to be probably a single-player FPS Mandalorian bounty hunter Star Wars game, and it had such good potential, I could believe so, and yet they canceled it. And the only reason that we can only agree with the reason of this is just the layoffs. But as much as I can say about the layoffs, it still stings in my back right now, knowing that this game, that we could have had so much potential seen out of it, will never come to fruition. It will never get the chance to take flight. It will never get a chance to be entertaining to all the Star Wars fans and gamer fans alike for what potentially could be one of the next best FPS Star Wars games imaginable. But one thing for certain is, though, is that this game, once again, EA has decided to cancel, is yet another point in why EA is just very terrible and has been so bad with these Star Wars games. This is why people never liked them for what they did for the Battlefront franchise. Despite it's much love was brought into this by DICE as possible, and many fans still find a way to enjoy it. Memories, even me, who I started my streaming career completely because of Star Wars Battlefront. It's because of that game with Battlefront 2 2017 that I've managed to make the most out of it. We all found a way to enjoy those games, but we all know the issues that EA has demonstrated has caused problems to everything that we stand for throughout the game as a whole. And that is one of the bigger reasons why I'm just scared by all means of what the future may hold if we ever have to dare see yet again another Star Wars game being published by EA and yet again getting a chance to see it comes to life, because it's most likely a chance that it just gets canceled completely. But Jedi still was going, so hey, that's fun. Look, I will say this, that as much as I'm still excited for the Jedi franchise third game, and I really want to see where this concludes for Cal Kestis, because I've been enjoying his story. I've been enjoying the games. I've really been enjoying it. But this still disappoints me. I'm genuinely upset by this. This has been probably one of the most terrible times, again, not only caused by EA, but for anything in general by the Star Wars community as well. And see the possibility of a game that could have been in their hands, that could have been right for the taking, and here we are now, and it's gone. And we may never get a chance to see this possible game, especially for a game that's going to be within the Mandalorian style, which has been a craze so far as of late because of the series. I do hope for the best that someone might pick up that idea in the future, and we might possibly see that again someday. But until then, only time will tell. But my final thoughts, I'll say this. As much as this happened, I'm not going to let this kind of hurt me very much constantly. I'm going to keep enjoying all the Star Wars games I can enjoy. I'll be excited for the Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection that's coming up on the 14th of March. I'm going to be excited for any of the other Star Wars games, if hopefully they end up being good or they don't get canceled like what this has happened. And I will still have my hopes, of course, despite the negative issues and what we're seeing, of course. But anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found it informative and hopefully understand the situation is going to hand. Again, definitely join me in the comments down below if you want to get in on the conversation. I would appreciate discussing this about this, thoughts about it, and kind of give our thoughts about what's been happening. Again, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, and please don't forget to subscribe. I would appreciate your support as always, guys. It would very come down appreciative if you can. But anyway, guys, thank you guys again for joining. Love you all. Keep on partying. Have a good rest of your day, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye, my friends.